Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something called Hitbodedut. I came across it in a YouTube video by Rabbi Itamar Schwartz.
Ah, yes. Hippodadet often gets translated as like
Yeah.
spiritual solitude or contemplation, right?
Exactly. But what caught my attention and what we want to explore is that it's presented as more than just, finding a quiet room.
Right. It seems Rabbi Schwartz frames it as a journey inward, like really deep into oneself.
He uses this great analogy walking into a forest. You start near the road, you can still hear the traffic, see the edge.
Still connected to the outside.
But as you go deeper, surrounded only by trees, that outside world just fades away. That's the kind of inner space he's talking about, I think.
So it's not merely physical isolation,
Mhm.
but accessing a profound inner dimension, a kind of internal quiet.
Yeah, exactly. And the really interesting part is how he suggests we get there. It's not through super advanced spiritual techniques necessarily.
Okay, what then?
He focuses on our everyday senses, specifically smell, breath, and hearing, using them as doorways.
Huh.
Well,
It sounds simple, but how do ordinary senses lead to something so deep? That's the question, isn't it?
Let's start with smell and breath.
Hmm.
He gives the example of consciously smelling something pleasant. Spices, maybe, like those used for blessings?
Okay, so taking something with positive associations.
Right. And the difference isn't just noticing the smell, it's the way you smell it. Not just a quick sniff, but a deep inhalation.
Ah, so drawing it in, like intentionally pulling the scent deeper inside you.
Precisely. That conscious, deeper pull is meant to guide your awareness inward, too, turning an unconscious act into a deliberate exploration.
Almost like following the scent down into yourself.
Yeah, he actually suggests a very gradual approach. Start with just gentle inhales, then slowly, bit by bit, try to breathe it in a little deeper.
Without straining, I imagine.
Definitely no strain. Gently does it. He uses this image. It's like climbing down a ladder into a well. Each deeper breath is like stepping down another rung.
Okay, I get the picture. So descending inwards, and the purpose of this. What are we hoping to find down there?
Well, the idea is to become aware of those subtle inner layers. Feelings, maybe a sense of your deeper self, places we don't usually notice in the hustle and bustle.
Layers that are usually unconscious or just
Yeah,
background noise.
exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. He suggests that the simple practice, truly smelling, can actually start to uncover a sense of inner peace, like a quietness you didn't know was there.
And that finding that quietness might feel good.
Yeah.
Pleasant even.
Yeah. He says with practice, you might actually start to enjoy that stillness, develop a kind of longing to return to that inner space.
It's about habituation then. Training ourselves not just to find that space, but to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. It connects to what he calls a love of solitude, not just valuing the things you do when you're alone, but finding real pleasure in the state of being alone with yourself, in that inner quiet.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So from smell, he then moves to breath itself.
Directly, it's a very similar exercise, just focusing on the inhalation and exhalation consciously.
So again, starting shallow,
Yeah.
naturally.
Right, just as you normally breathe, and then gently, progressively, deepening the breath, guiding it further inward.
Always with that emphasis on calmness, on ease. No forcing.
Never forcing. It's about gently inviting yourself into those deeper internal spaces, using the breath as the vehicle this time.
Creating that inner forest interior, as you called it, just through conscious breathing.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's hearing. He talks about listening to music or a melody.
But not just passively having it on in the background, I assume?
No, definitely not. It's about actively listening and sort of guiding the sound inward, letting it resonate deep inside you.
Moving beyond just hearing the notes with your ears to almost feeling the music internally.
That's the idea. Progressing from a surface hearing to a much more profound inner reception.
And he mentions different melodies might reach different depths.
He does, yeah. Some might resonate more superficially, others might touch something much deeper. But the basic principle is consistent, gently drawing the sensory experience inward.
Interesting. So we've got these three potential tools: smell, breath, and hearing. How does he suggest putting them into practice? Should we do all three?
He's pretty flexible on that. He says to experiment, see what resonates with you. Maybe start with just one, or try two, or use all three if that feels right.
So personalize it.
Exactly. The key seems to be the gentle, consistent practice rather than which specific sense you use.
And what happens with this practice over time?
Well, the suggestion is that you'll naturally start wanting to linger longer In those deeper inner states, you find a kind of rest there, a stronger sense of self.
A place you want to return to.
Right. And crucially, this isn't just meant for like a dedicated 30-minute hit Bododut session each day.
Oh, so it's more integrated.
Yeah, he presents it more as developing a way of living with greater inner awareness. Even just taking a moment during a busy day for a conscious breath, or briefly focusing on a sound or smell.
Like mini retreats throughout the day.
Kind of. Offering moments of inner respite, renewing your strength. It's meant to shift your whole way of making you calmer, more inward, more, well, profound, perhaps?
So it's less about scheduling solitude and more about cultivating an inner life that you carry with you.
That seems to be the core idea. Now, he does touch on what comes next. For people who establish these initial practices.
Going deeper still.
Exactly. It's about continually seeking even deeper dimensions within the soul, not just finding a comfortable inner spot and staying there.
So a constant, gentle striving inward.
Yes, a continuous exploration. He frames the ultimate aim as connecting with one's true self, and through that, with the divine within.
But always gently, right?
Yeah.
Calmly, peacefully.
Always. He stresses that. And, it's important he acknowledges this is just one approach to hit Badut. There are many paths.
Right. This sensory-focused method might not click for everyone.
Which leads to the question, who is this particular approach best suited for?
Good question. What does he suggest?
He indicates it's probably best for individuals who already have a certain natural inclination towards inner exploration, people perhaps comfortable with emotional depth.
Those with a kind of thirst for self-inquiry, maybe? A rich inner world already.
Something like that. He cautions that if these methods feel too subtle or maybe confusing or they create pressure, then perhaps another approach is better.
And seeking guidance might be helpful in that case.
Yes, he does recommend that. And he adds a really important point. This guidance, this whole method, is really aimed at people who are starting from a place of relative inner calm and balance.
Okay, so maybe not the first step if someone is in significant inner turmoil.
That seems to be the implication. We can touch on that more with the Q&A, actually. The YouTube video had comments, and Rabbi Schwartz addressed some common questions, which is really helpful.
Oh, great. Let's get into those. What came up?
Well, someone asked that exact question. Do I need to do all three, smell, breath, hearing?
And the answer was...
No, not necessarily. Start with what feels most natural. Add others later, if you like. He felt using at least one, maybe preferably two, was a good starting point.
That makes sense.
What else? Another person asked, should I be thinking or praying while I'm doing the deep breathing?
Ah, interesting. What's the ideal there?
Ideally, he suggests aiming for quiet, thought-free breathing, letting the stillness itself deepen. But he acknowledges that can be hard.
Yeah, the mind tends to wander.
So if quietness is difficult, using gentle, spiritually focused thoughts can be okay as a tool, sort of an anchor.
Okay. A practical concession?
Then there was a question about why there wasn't much explicit talk about, speaking to God in this initial phase.
Right, because Hit-Bodhidut is often associated with direct prayer or conversation with the divine.
His perspective on this particular method is that it focuses on building the inner foundation first, getting to know that deep inner space.
So the idea is that authentic communication, real prayer, arises more naturally from that grounded place.
Exactly. He seemed to suggest that rushing into speaking without that inner grounding can sometimes be a way of, well, avoiding oneself.
Interesting point. Avoiding the stillness, maybe?
Could be. Then someone shared their experience. I tried smelling for 5 minutes, felt nothing. Is this even for me?
Okay, that's a very practical concern. What was the guidance?
He reiterated that finding inner peace takes time. It's about getting acquainted with that inner space first. He also gently pointed out that the previous advice focused on external senses, and maybe external distractions were preventing even outer calm.
Ah, so maybe the environment wasn't conducive, or maybe deeper issues.
Right. He said if someone's dealing with significant inner turmoil or a lot of external pressure, this method might need some groundwork first. Or maybe it isn't the right fit at this moment. It's more for those with a baseline of inner stability.
That clarifies the who is this for point quite well.
Yeah. Related to that, someone asked if being unfocused during the practice relates to a lack of inner peace.
Plausible connection.
He said, possibly. It depends on the degree of lack of focus. Is it just typical mind wandering or something more pervasive? This method assumes a sort of moderate ability to focus.
So if focus is a major challenge, maybe address the root causes of that lack of peace first.
That seems to be the suggestion, yes. Address the underlying issues before trying to use this specific technique for deepening.
Okay. Any more specific questions?
There was a very specific one about smelling an etrog, a citron, used in Jewish ritual on Shabbat for this practice. What blessing should be said?
A technical religious question?
And the answer was straightforward. The specific blessing for smelling an etrog is tied to its ritual use. If you're just smelling it for this kind of relaxation or inner focus practice, that blessing wouldn't apply.
Got it. Distinction between ritual and this kind of personal practice.
Then a really fascinating question. How do I know if this inner experience is real or just my imagination?
Ooh, that's a deep one. How did he tackle that?
He acknowledged that most things probably involve a mix of truth and imagination. But he suggested looking at the fruits of the experience.
Like, what effect does it have?
Exactly. If the experience leads to increased inner stability, calmness, a sense of grounding that suggests a move towards reality, towards something genuine,
And if someone is naturally very imaginative?
they might be more inclined to suspect it's just imagination, whereas someone more naturally grounded might trust the experience more readily. But he also said, even if it starts feeling like imagination, the calmness it produces can pave the way for genuine inner peace later.
So the initial label isn't as important as the resulting state.
Kind of, though the aim is for the purely imaginative element to decrease over time, replaced by a more direct inner knowing.
Okay. What about music? Did anyone ask for recommendations?
Yes, someone asked what kind of music works best.
And his thoughts?
He leaned towards older traditional melodies, particularly from old Hasidic courts. He felt they often carry a deeper spiritual resonance than a lot of modern music. Looking for a certain quality. Yeah, a sense of holiness, something that resonates with your own soul. He even mentioned considering the character of the composer. Were they known for righteousness? But ultimately, the connection of the melody to its sort of deeper spiritual source was key.
So, history and personal resonance.
Seems so. Okay, one last question from the comments. Is it okay to pray when you're feeling intense distress?
As opposed to doing this calmer inner work.
Right. And his answer was a clear yes, absolutely. Praying during hardship is valuable, important.
But it's not the only tool.
Exactly. He framed it as one part of a larger path. This deeper inner work we've been discussing offers another dimension, another kind of solace and strength that complements direct prayer, especially prayer from distress.
So they're not mutually exclusive. Both have their place.
That's the message. So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've really explored quite a specific, gentle approach to inner solitude, drawing directly from Rabbi Schwartz's teachings.
Yeah, focusing on how gradual, step-by-step practices using our basic senses, smell, breath, hearing, can act as gateways.
Gateways to accessing, hopefully, deeper layers of inner peace, self-awareness, and just a stronger connection with our own being.
It really highlights the potential within the ordinary, doesn't it? Using simple, everyday functions in a conscious way for profound inner work.
Definitely. Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener. Now that you've heard about this pathway inward, using the senses, what small sensory experience might you choose to engage with today, even just for a moment, to gently try and touch a deeper part of yourself?